Merry Holy Hump Day on this December 22nd, everyone. I'm Pastor Robert. Welcome to this midweek time where I can share some spiritual thoughts and reflections with you. Since we're only a couple of days away from Christmas Eve, I wanted to focus on the topic of the connection between Methodism and Christmas. Think about this. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, who lived during the 1700s, he was an Anglican priest in the Church of England. He preached over 40,000 sermons, and as far as we know, he never preached a Christmas sermon. That's remarkable. So in contrast, this Christmas Eve, I will have preached my 35th Christmas Eve sermon. So why was that John Wesley wouldn't have preached a Christmas sermon? Well, John Wesley lived during a time when the Puritans were in control for about 150 years, and they outlawed Christmas during that time because they felt that Christmas, get this, ready for this, had become too commercialized. Does that sound familiar? And they felt that for the church to celebrate Christmas would simply add to that commercialized feel of that holiday. And there were even town criers in London in the 1700s who would, on Christmas Day, cry out, "No Christmas! No Christmas!" And so that is why John Wesley probably never preached a Christmas sermon. And then in the New World, when Methodists started coming over to America and started meeting in small groups and having their Methodist class meetings, we still weren't really organized. We were still part of the Anglican Church at that time, but meeting in those Methodist class meetings as Anglicans, even here in the New World. And so they would have inherited a lot of that Puritan culture. And so they weren't celebrating Christmas either during that colonial period here in the New World. And what changed and why Christmas became popular was around the mid-1800s. We have Charles Dickens with the A Christmas Carol. We have the Victorian Age, which emphasized Christmas. And we also have the modern-day Santa Claus emerging from a Christian saint from the early centuries, St. Nicholas, and it kind of became what we know today as Santa Claus. So all of this added to the popularity of Christmas. And so Methodists would have started celebrating Christmas more and more because of that around the middle part of the 1800s. So this is something that I think is an important connection between Methodism and Christmas. It was on Christmas Eve in 1784 when we became our own denomination, separate from the Church of England. So Christmas Eve, 1784, 86 Methodist preachers, they were not ordained, they were lay people who were simply preachers helping to get Methodist class meetings started in the New World. They felt the need to be able to get organized, and there was a shortage of Anglican priests, which they depended on for the celebration of the sacraments and other ordained kind of duties. And so it was, the Revolutionary War, and so it wasn't very popular to be attached to anything related to England, and there was a shortage of Anglican priests. So John Wesley, who was over in England, he saw that, okay, I don't really want to start a new denomination, but I can see that that needs to happen in the New World. So he allowed for this, what's called the Christmas Conference, the famous Christmas Conference, which was held at Lovely Lane Chapel in Baltimore, Maryland, where these 86 preachers came together, lay preachers. And when I was in confirmation class in my church in South Central Pennsylvania growing up, for one of the field trips with our confirmation class, we went to Lovely Lane Chapel. There's a different church built over that site where this Christmas conference was held in 1784, but we got to hear about the history of how our denomination started. And so there were these 86 Methodist preachers who came from all over to Baltimore, Maryland, and they met for 10 days, and they established a book of discipline. They established a book of worship to use, and they ordained preachers, and they appointed Francis Asbury, who had come over from England to become the first superintendent of this new denomination, which at that time was first called the Methodist Episcopal Church, which over the centuries became known as what we know today as the United Methodist Church. And so, you know, at our church here at Athens First United Methodist Church, I noticed that we have this bicentennial plate that we give to new members when they join. You might recognize it. It has the 4 church buildings that are on that plate of this church. And that was in commemoration back in 1984 of the bicentennial year of the whole denomination, but it also included our history here at Athens. It dates back to 1800. And so that's a little bit about the connection between Methodism and Christmas. And I invite you to our Christmas Eve sermon. Yes, we are allowed to celebrate Christmas as Methodists. It'll be an in-person service as well as a live stream option on our church's YouTube channel. Christmas Eve, 7 p.m. here in the sanctuary. We'll be using glow sticks instead of wax candles to help protect ourselves during this pandemic. And we'll also have our Sunday morning worship at 9 o'clock and 10:30. That will also be available on our church's YouTube channel that you can watch beginning at 10:25. But join us for that because it's going to be a 9 lessons and carols Christmas celebration. We're going to be singing all these carols and hearing scriptures that relate to these carols. So Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.